Hello, everyone. It's Tracy here. It's Tough Love Tuesday, and I've got an incredible guest with you today. As you know, I'm an integrative nutrition health coach and a certified personal trainer. I'm also a recovered yo-yo dieter, a recovered pre-diabetic, and a recovered body loather. And that is why I'm so excited to have my guest on here today, because I know I'm not the only one, and she's going to help us realize that, a lot of us are in that or have lived that, and she's going to help us learn how not to do that and why we can move past that part in our lives. But I have Camille Martin with me today. Camille is a hi.
Sorry.
No, go right ahead. She's a registered dietitian, a health blogger, and a senior technical editor for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which I find so awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible. She's also a former chronic dieter who wasted nearly 25 years of her life on a diet. And in her book, Love to Lose, Love Your Life and Watch the Weight Lose Itself, she uses what she learned on her own weight journey to help other women stop wasting their lives on a diet, embrace everything about themselves, achieve what they're truly capable of, and lose weight in the process. She received a Bachelor's of Arts in English from the University of Georgia and a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition from Georgia State University. She's a vegetarian, marathon runner, and proud mother of 2 daughters and 2 rescue dogs. And we're going to go ahead and put her, I'll put her website in the notes so that you can find her. And again, Camille, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm so excited to be here. And I know we're going to have lots and lots to talk about, and we have a lot in common. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And when I saw that you were a former chronic dieter, I related to you immediately. Yes. Tell us your story around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I started dieting when I was 12 years old, which is very, very young. But like a lot of women, I think I got, as a very young girl, lots of messages from people around me and certainly the media, that what I looked like was the most important thing of all, and that the worst thing that I could be was heavy or overweight or, fat would be, the worst thing ever, that I was supposed to look pretty, be quiet. I'm Southern. So growing up in the Southern United States, there's a big emphasis on girls looking pretty, being quiet, not taking up a lot of space, and go along and get along, and people pleasing and all of that. But so I started dieting when I was 12. I never was overweight. All through my dieting and trying to lose weight journey for almost 25 years, I was never more than 10 pounds off of where I wanted to be. So it's completely insane that I spent so much time focused on trying to lose the same 10 pounds, which I probably didn't even need to lose. Mm-hmm. So to go back, I started when I was 12. It went all the way through high school, trying every diet imaginable. I was over exercising. I was taking diet pills. Just doing anything and everything, just crazy making to be thin. Then I went to college, and, when you're in high school, you have lots of structure, you have your home life, you get up every day at the same time, go to bed, your family's there. So when I went to college, the wheels sort of came off the bus. I didn't have that structure, and I sort of just was like a ship out at sea. Didn't know, I was terribly insecure, just like everybody is, but not knowing that everyone else is insecure, feeling like you're the only one, of course.
If only I'd known that then.
I know.
So young people watching this, please know you're not alone.
Everyone's insecure. Still, everyone's insecure, no matter how old you are. But I should go back really quick and mention that I taught myself how to eat emotionally starting at that same age of from the feelings of insecurity and isolation that every teen feels. So I started using food to make myself feel better. So anytime I was lonely or sad or, feeling any kind of feeling that was not a positive feeling, I would go sit in my parents' den, lock the door, get as much food as I could get, lock the door, turn on the TV, and just eat. And it really was like the only time where I felt truly secure and comfortable, like alone. It was the shoveling in of this food just calmed me down and made me feel, it's awful, loved or accepted. And then, of course, once I was done, the shame overwhelmed me. I locked the door there. What does that tell you? But so my binge eating and my emotional eating went full force in college because I was, it was insecurity on steroids. So dieting was just not working. I wasn't able to diet enough to counterbalance all of the emotional eating I was doing and the binging that I was doing. So I learned how to binge and purge and became bulimic for probably 3 or 4 years after that. So I'm just going, I could sit here and tell you my story all day. So please feel free to interject.
Oh, well, I again, these are organic, unedited, broadcasts. And my hope is that they lead where we're supposed to go. And
yeah.
And by you mentioning that, the insecurity and then binging, and I can relate to you with the over exercising, the diet pills. I was probably one of those in the 90s. When I look at my photos, I'm like, what was I thinking? Because on the outside, I looked fit and I looked quote unquote almost perfect, but I was pounding myself with exercise and taking the diet pills back then that were really, I think they're the ones that were pulled off the market. Yeah, because they were but I was just, again, the concept of us as women had to look a specific way and we had to be perfect and all of that really, as well as for me, I think it was high school, I started to diet. And then when I got into university, I put on a ton of weight. So I just kept eating because I was sad. I'd go get donuts, or I would eat a massive burrito. I just remember just because I was so anxiety ridden. Yes. And then try and diet. And then the other thing again is that we can feel like we're alone and we don't want to talk about it because we shouldn't feel anxiety. We shouldn't feel insecure. Right. So we don't do that. Right. And so I feel kindred with you in the aspect that I know that you and I are not just the only two people. And if we as women, even men, we realize that it's okay to say, hey, I'm anxious. I'm feeling uncomfortable, because I believe once it's out and spoken, it's not as heavy of a dark weight on us. And so so anyway,
well, and I think also, Tracy, the feeling like you can't talk about your anxiety or your feelings, or feeling insecure and lonely and sad, you bottle that up, and that's one layer that makes it worse. But then when you eat emotionally and you're using food to make yourself feel better, and then weight shows up outwardly, it's shameful to have your feelings, it's shameful to overeat, and then it's shameful to gain weight. So it's like the triple whammy,
Yeah. So. And I believe too, and it's still happening today. And I think what the best thing we can do as women, and those, is just to realize that one thing I always like to say is that our body is our number one teammate. It's our best friend. And if we can learn how to, to drive it in terms of what it makes it feel best, and being willing to do that journey, which you did, which you write about in your book. So what was that journey that turned the corner where you learned how to?
Yes. Well, it started the moment where it went from me being just filled with shame and just complete feeling demoralized, feeling like a failure after dieting and failing. When I was in my mid to late 20s, I lived in Atlanta. I worked there. I had my first job there. I was in my little apartment that I loved so much, and I would work all day and I would drink Diet Dr. Pepper all day. yeah, no water. I don't know what was happening in the 80s and the 90s.
Who needs water back then?
Yeah, Diet Dr. Pepper all day. I wouldn't eat. And then I would come home and I would try to work out, and I would be completely, I had no energy to do anything. And I would try to get through a workout and would fail miserably. And then I would just eat. So I kept doing this over and over. I had been doing it since I was 12, and there was an added layer of going out with my friends and drinking too much, and like the anxiety around, being hungover, drinking. I felt out of control, honestly. And the only way I felt like I had control was like to try to micromanage what I was eating and restrict myself and force myself to exercise. So one day, I don't know what happened, but I just was sitting on my couch and I started crying and was sobbing and just saying, I cannot do this anymore. I just can't do it anymore. And I made a decision right then. I knew if I continued doing this, I was just going to be miserable for the rest of my life. Nothing was changing. I felt totally hopeless. And I was like, you know what? If this isn't going to change, if I'm not going to lose this 10 pounds and it's going to stay here, nothing's working, I might as well at least just be happy, and stop doing this and stop making myself crazy. So I decided I'm not going to diet anymore. I'm going to quit. And I was really afraid that once I did that, I was not going to not only lose the 10 pounds, but I was going to gain more than that. And I was going to be out of control and gain a ton of weight. But the opposite happened, because all of that resistance that I felt trying not to eat, forcing myself to work out, staring at myself in the mirror and hating myself. I still struggle with that, but I'm just saying, like, the resistance that I felt constantly was gone. It was like, well, I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want to. So what happened is that I no longer all of a sudden had this urge. It wasn't this forbidden thing to sit down on the couch and open up a carton of ice cream and then like try not to eat it, eat a little bit, try to stop, not be able to stop. And then I ate the whole thing and now I'm a loser and I have no willpower. It was like, okay, well, I can eat it if I want to. So I would sit down with my ice cream and I would start eating it. And I was relaxed. And it was like, well, I really don't need to eat this whole thing. I have a little bit, I feel fine. So it was all of these little epiphanies like that, And so I started saying, well, let me, I don't ever cook. Let me just, instead of eating lean cuisine, let me make something. Let me cook something. So I started investigating how to cook. I started reading cookbooks, and it sort of just was an upward spiral instead of a downward spiral. And I felt peaceful. I felt joyful. I didn't go out and kill myself to do a 5-mile run if I didn't feel like it. And 9 times out of 10, I would go out for a walk and I would end up jogging and feeling good. I mean, it was like, holy crap. I mean, it was like this whole new world. And so not only did I not gain weight, the 10 pounds that so would not go away, or I would force to go away and it would come back, left. And, at different phases and stages in my life, I've, I don't weigh myself anymore, but I can tell, I just went through a divorce. I gained a little bit of weight, but you know what? I really don't care. I'm like, everything levels out and balances out, but it's the self-hatred, the restriction, the trying not to, and the misery that's keeping the weight on your body. So.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. And I love what you said. I think, Chris, the word diet means deprivation, means restriction, means giving up, and means punishment. And we put that weight on ourselves, and it was interesting too, somewhat similar with me when I realized that diets just didn't work for me, made things worse. My anxiety go up. And as you know, too, like stress will make it so you retain weight because you're so anxious and anxiety ridden. Our cortisol levels go up and things like that. And so once, just to tell everybody once as well, when I took that pressure off of myself, and when I say I can eat whatever I want, but whatever I want to eat now is so different than it used to be. But And
right?
guarantee you what you probably, I'm going to say the 18-year-old you would not probably believe where you are today, probably, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
And I know the same for me. So what would you tell somebody that maybe, hasn't made it through that yet, or they're on that journey? What is the biggest suggestion you have to trust in that journey, and that you'll get there, but it may seem just way too big right now,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hard because you can always look back and see, oh, that served a purpose. That I really learned a lot from that. It's almost like when you're in something, like when I was going through my divorce, I could only see this, like I'm divorcing, I'm getting a divorce, my whole life is blowing up. And
Mhm.
now that I'm on the other side of it, I can easily look back and see that the only perspective I had was this. I'm married, I'm someone's wife. Now I'm not someone's wife. And now who am I without this? So it's hard to say. I mean, I'm 52. So anyone who's in their early 20s is going to be like, well, yeah, you're 52. So you got it all figured out. But you just have to, it's almost like instead of saying something like trust the journey, just trust yourself, like you have more power than you think you do. You're stronger than you think you are. And that's the thing about food to me that's so crazy making, is that what's happening is that people are setting up this fear-based relationship with food, and it's the relationship that has to change. It's not the menu that has to change. So ironically, when you accept that, and when you've been dieting and failing for years on end, you feel your confidence is in the toilet and you feel like nothing's ever going to change. But if you just make one change and one change only, just decide, I have control over this. I can do this. I don't need a diet to tell me what to do. I don't need to feel like I'm out of control and I have no willpower. I can take charge. Well, here's the first thing: stop dieting, because
Yes.
it doesn't work.
Just stop.
Not only does it not work, it's keeping the weight on you if you're an emotional eater, because of the resistance that's involved with dieting. So all that resistance, the willpower creates resistance. And when you run out of willpower, what are you going to do to neutralize that resistance? If you eat emotionally, you're going to eat, and then you're going to gain the weight back. So I think I went off on a tangent. I didn't really answer your question, but
No, you did. You said just the first thing would be, just stop dieting, but also,
yeah.
both you and I are in our 50s. And so, but I know that we've both gone through that, and our goal, and your goal was, help anyone to not waste time anymore doing that, which is where you were heading in this conversation, is, really not wasting. Why are we wasting our lives doing this to ourselves?
Yes, absolutely. And so, as you and I were talking about before we started, it's not only a waste of time to diet, because diets just don't work. I mean, it's never going to work. The structure of a diet, I don't care which one it is, they all have these similarities that make them unsustainable. You make too many changes all at the same time. They're really big changes that are not what you normally do day to day. You have to change everything that you're doing, big, huge changes all at once and in a very short amount of time. They're all focused on eliminating, getting rid of. It's a negative focus, because what you do when you diet, you're focused on what? The weight, getting rid of the weight. So you're staring at yourself and saying, oh my God, I'm ready for the weight. I'm trying to get rid of the weight. So all of that focus and that negativity and that resistance, is what means that they don't work. But the biggest reason they don't work is because they're one size fits all. A diet that eat right for your blood type isn't going to work for you and for me in the same way, because we're two different people, and we have two different blood types, or whatever that is.
Program is, yeah.
God, whatever. But so the only thing that does work is you changing your habits, changing your thoughts, doing what works for you in your own life. In my book, that's what I talk about. It's a whole structure and a framework of how to change your habits little by little, and start today and go down a road that's a forever road, instead of diet, fail, lose 10 pounds, gain 10 pounds. So, yeah. So what I was going to say is diets don't work. So they're a waste of time inherently, but also the biggest waste of time is that women keep dieting over and over for years on end. And by the time you get to be 50, like me, if you've been doing this for 20 plus years, your confidence is completely shot. And so you are light years away from who you are capable of being as a woman, and to contribute to this universe with all of your beautiful energy. It's being wasted. So that's why I'm doing this, is that, I mean, women like you, like me, anyone listening to this who feels like, well, you know, I can't even, how am I going to go do X, Y, and Z when I can't even lose 10 pounds? It's just it's a crime against humanity. And I'm angry about it. I'm angry for my two beautiful daughters who are already asking me, Mommy, am I fat? I mean, it's bullshit. I'm sorry, but
it's fine.
I'm not going to put up with anymore. And I will not go to my grave without talking about these things, because I almost wasted my whole life doing this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand what you mean. And it just, it was like, for me, you know, here I was not even 40 years old, and I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes. And to me, I was failed again. And I was ready to give up. I said, why didn't I appreciate my body sooner? Why am I so horrible? How could I let this happen? I'm a failure. What's wrong with me? You know, and, but at the same time, if anybody, you know, you're in that position and like with you, but I still had this little voice that was in me. And I feel that was my true authentic self saying, hey, you know, we can figure this out. You know, we can make it, you know, let's just try and figure it out. And it took me like 4 years of yo-yo dieting and still bludgeoning myself, but also I did reverse it. But through that, I found that I had a strength, and then it changed my whole career. I quit construction and went in, you know, and decided to become a health coach and a trainer, because so maybe too, we say, okay, yeah, failure, if we can learn from those, like, okay, I figure too, I know definitely what doesn't work for my body.
Yes, right. When your body, everybody's body is different, and everybody's life is different.
Yeah.
You know? So that's funny. You quit construction. I was what did I even do? I did so many different things, but I was in marketing and broadcasting. And then I was like, I'm going to go take a class at downtown Atlanta after work and take a nutrition class, because now I'm excited about it. And I did a whole career switch and became a dietitian. I had no plan for that. That's really cool.
Well, I was going to ask you what switched you to, you know, and it was just, I think, our own life's journey that, oh my gosh, we know what it felt like. It was just an awful feeling, and it's up to us now to get out and speak about it. And, you know, and so, oh my goodness. So let's see, what else I wanted to talk with you about. Oh, so many things. So fill me in more about your book in specifics. Yes.
Yeah, my book, it was actually 15 years in the making. When I started taking classes and becoming a dietitian, I was like, you know what, I'm going to write a book about how to lose weight without dieting by changing your habits. And I had 2 babies. I, you know, moved to a new city. I had to quit my job and get a new job. And then I got a divorce. So I was like, 15 years later, I still hadn't done anything with it, but I sat down finally, and it just like all came spilling out of me. And it was so beautiful. It's almost like the universe was telling me, you're not ready to write this book yet. And then, you know, because my divorce and my relationship with, it's such a complicated like web of stuff, but like chauvinism, sexism, and the patriarchy, and I know some people bristle at that word, but it is a real thing. And so I was able to weave that into the book. But at its core, the book is about changing your habits and changing your thoughts around food and eating. And it sounds totally boring. That's not exciting. That's not what anybody wants to hear. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to eat. But the beautiful part about it is that by I'm giving you a framework of how to change habits, but it's critically important that people choose the habits that they want to change. And then I give you, the process really is converting a bad habit into a good habit. So most people try to take a bad habit and then just dump it and pick up a good one, and it doesn't work. And, so you got to make teeny tiny little changes to the habits that you're trying to change. You need to start with one at a time, and then try certain modifications. And it's a whole process. You do have to be deliberate about it, but if you do it and you stick with it, the beautiful part is that if one change isn't working, you can say, okay, that's not working for me. I'll pick a new one. And you're basically creating your own blueprint for losing weight permanently. And most importantly, changing how you feel and see, how you think about food, how you think about yourself. All of these things, changing your thoughts. You have to notice your thoughts, which most people don't. Changing your thoughts while you're changing your habits. Those two feed off each other. So the more you make tiny changes, behavioral changes, the more your thoughts start to change. And the more you deliberately change your thoughts, what you do starts to change. So you start getting exponential results. But hopefully the biggest benefit that a woman would get out of reading this book is not just to change her habits, but to see, I can do this, and to get her confidence back, and to start feeling like, one of the biggest pieces of my program is teaching women how to set a goal that has nothing to do with what you look like, a really like exciting goal that seems out of reach. Like I could never do that. Real quick, you said in my bio, and it is true, I've run 4 marathons, and I say I'm a marathon runner, but that's probably a little bit, that's overstated, but I had never run a marathon in my life. I'd never run a 10K. I was like, there's no way in the world I could ever run 26 miles. But during this whole process of learning to cook and taking a class and trying stuff, I decided to set that as a goal. And it was, lo and behold, I was like, it took me 5.5 hours, but I did it. So it's like, if you set goals like that don't have anything to do with what you look like, or getting a degree, or traveling to a foreign country, learning another language, those things take your mind off of, I look awful, I'm so disgusting, I'm so fat, I'm worthless. And you build your confidence while you're doing all of these other things. So it's a framework. And if you plug it all in and you do it and you're consistent, it does work. It worked for me. I've seen it work for women that I've worked with. But so yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
In a non-nutshell there.
Well, what I love what you said too, and it was very similar. Again, hopefully people will hear me here, was once I took I knew I wanted to, number one, I knew I had to reverse my diabetes, pre-diabetes. Yeah. I'm sorry, my pre-diabetes. I knew I had to lose the weight for my health,
Yeah.
And what was interesting was, so I had started going to the gym, and a friend of mine gave me the courage to go and do a spin class, because they terrified me. They intimidated me. Just no one's going to know what you're doing. They don't care what you're doing.
Right.
And so I get in there, and I remember when I was young, I won a bike from my orthodontist, and that bike was everything to me. It was how I got around and all this and that. And so I had this in me. I loved cycling. So I got on the bike, and then one day this big banner shows up in the class. It says, "Take the ride of your life. Tour de Cure, is coming up." And so I was like, I wonder if I could do that,
Oh, yes.
And so all of a sudden, next thing I know, I had 7 weeks to train for it.
How far is it?
So I said, so I went ahead and I just read. I was blind. I was, in terms of I didn't know anything about this, but it said,
yeah,
if you want to, each week up to it, you need to do this many miles. And I thought, oh, I could do that. So I could do the 70. All right, I'll do the 70. So within 7 weeks, I'm riding a 70-mile bike ride. The next year I did a century ride. Amazing. And then the next thing I noticed was I was fit, and I was eating different. Right. I was eating different. I could still, when I said too, we talk about eating things we still like. I still love pizza. And you know what? Fine. I will have pizza. In fact, we had it 2 nights ago. I don't do
Yeah.
it every Friday like I used to,
Well, if you don't restrict yourself from eating pizza, guess what? It's not
Yeah.
this thing. It's like, I'm dying to eat pizza. You just eat
Yes,
a few
exactly.
pieces
So
and then move
yeah.
on.
So when my mind, I finally figured it out, was it focus on something else, something I want to do, something I like. And then I need to learn, well, what would help support that? You know, like for you, what would help support you for running? What would help support me for
Yeah.
writing? Or what would help support, a strong mind so I can learn another language and start doing.
Definitely.
And then
Yeah.
so what you're saying, yes, we need to take our eyes off of this diet thing
Yeah.
and start living right now, this second,
Yes. Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
and it's true, like what you just said is so true, that you start changing the way you feel yourself, it naturally changes, because all of that energy and enthusiasm that you got from riding a bike, like it spills over automatically into
Mhm.
every other area, including what you're, I mean,
Yeah.
some of it may have been deliberate. When I was training for my first marathon, I decided to quit eating meat just while I was training to see how I felt.
Yep.
I felt so good. I never went back. I've been a vegetarian ever since.
Yeah.
And I'm not promoting that per se, but it's like when you start doing something like, let me go learn how to speak a foreign language. I always wanted to do that and I never did it. And you get excited about it and you're, enthusiastic. You're not, at the very least, you're not sitting around going, okay, what am I not supposed to eat today? It's not this day
Right.
just like closing in on you, like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
trying not to eat carbs. I mean, that's just not a life,
Yeah.
you know? So that's
Yeah.
awesome. I love your story and I'm so impressed. Like you cured your own, because most people, it's like the doctor will tell you, here, take metformin, here's your pill. And then let's,
Mhm. Yeah.
bye. You have to take matters, your health. You are in charge of your own health and you
Mhm.
can do it. You really can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think too, again, the forgiving ourselves for the failures that we used to beat ourselves up for is really
Yeah.
important. And you said something earlier, which I really appreciated too, is when you're in it, this world seems really small around this thing that's just right in
Yes.
front of your face. And then and you're navigating as best you can with what you know, and if all you know is dieting, that's how you're going to navigate.
Right.
So that's where if we're able to realize we're not alone and we're not in this tiny hole and that we
Yeah.
can make it through, then the world will open. We can release these shackles that we've got on us.
Yes,
And
definitely.
um, you know, no matter what, this is the other thing, no matter what, someone's going to have some opinion about something.
Yeah. About everything.
So what we need to do is make sure, we're, really nourishing our body hears us. Our body hears, it's like
Yeah.
it hears what we think. And so if we can be supportive of it and I like thinking,
Yes.
you're probably, I don't know how you probably felt the same, was like, once I started to learn about it. And the other thing that was interesting was you were learning to cook. We've all lost that skill set.
Yeah.
We've
Well, I
been,
mean, you cannot eat healthy. I always say this, and some people will fight me on it, but it's like you cannot eat healthy if you don't cook at
yeah.
least a little bit. You cannot order DoorDash. Listen, I love DoorDash. Look, DoorDash has saved my life so many times. Like the best laid plans, life gets the better of you, and sometimes you got to order DoorDash. It's okay, but
Yeah.
you can't do that every night. You can't never cook or take a lean cuisine out of the box. If you don't have it's literally about having your hands on the food. There's something about it.
Mhm.
Just cooking. And if you don't approach it as a chore, if you just say, I'm just going to get in here and maybe this dish will suck, but I'm going to try it and I'm going to do it. And unbelievably, like even the worst meals I've made sometimes taste good to me because I made it, I created it. And you're going to experiment more with food. If you just order the same thing off of DoorDash, pasta primavera, you're not going to get any variety. cooking is so important. It really is. You
Yeah.
don't have to be a master chef. I went from literally lean cuisine to where I am now, which is light years ahead, but you don't
Yeah.
have to have been raised in a house where people cooked. My mom
Yeah.
never cooked. So anyway,
Yeah.
cooking
Yeah.
is a fantastic way to get
Yep.
hands-on and heal your relationship with food.
Yeah. And if we can realize too, that's just something we've been sold, that we shouldn't be in the kitchen. We shouldn't have to be doing this horrible thing called cooking. And it's really
Right.
marketing coming at us. And granted, from also too, from the 50s and 60s, that's where, and I
Yeah.
think as women, I didn't want to be in the kitchen because I did not want to be told that's where I
Well,
was meant
listen,
to be.
I'll be in the kitchen because I want to be in the kitchen. You're not going to tell me to be in the kitchen.
Yeah. And now it's like,
because I'm not in it.
now it's like, exactly. Now it's like, I love being in there because I can have control over what I'm eating, and I know I'm going to feel better. So again,
Yeah.
that I just wanted to bring that up to everybody. Cooking is an opportunity, to really,
Yeah.
number one, make amazing food that doesn't have to be perfect.
Right. Well, and if
yeah.
your kitchen, I'm sorry, did I
No,
totally.
go ahead. This is your interview.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say cooking, it's hard to cook when your kitchen's a complete disaster and your environment is so important to your health, your kitchen environment. And if you don't take control of it, I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but if your environment is basically dictating what you do all day, and it's working either for you or against you, whether you like it or not. So it's in your best interest to take control of it. So I have a guide. It's a free guide.
Oh, good.
If anyone wants it, it's on my website. I can tell you. You want me to tell you what it is?
Yeah, go right ahead.
It's CamilleMartinRD.com. And then if you do /kitchen-guide, but also if you just go to my website after a few seconds, there'll be a little pop-up, but it's free and it really does show you how to weed your whole kitchen out, get yourself organized, ready to cook, ready to feel in control of the food rather than it controlling you. So
awesome.
Thank you for letting me give my little plug, but it is helpful. So
no, I wanted you to do that because I knew you had something like that, which is important. And I will support everything you said there. When my kitchen wasn't supporting my ability to cook, it wasn't fun. It was very haphazard and things like that. But it just takes a little bit, and I can't wait to see your handout because once I got that in order and I got some of the necessary things, it is fun. Not, and sometimes like you, that doesn't turn out quite the way I thought, but it didn't have to be perfect to be really cool at the same time. So anyway, but goodness gracious. So before we go, any last words that you would like to tell everybody?
Yes, the last words I have are, I want every woman to know that she has so much more to offer this world. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how many years you've been dieting and you failed, or you've been out of the workforce and you feel like I could never go back to work. I could never climb a mountain. I could never run a marathon or move to a country. I want every woman to know, reconnect back with your younger self and think of a goal that you used to have or a dream. And I want you to reconnect with that goal and have absolute certainty that you can do those things that you dream of doing. And it is my biggest desire in the world for every woman who's hearing this to stop dieting, stop trying to lose weight, stop wasting your life doing these things because we only have one. And you are built for a magical life, and dieting and trying to lose weight is not going to make your life magical.
Exactly. And, yes, I'm going to leave it right there. That was fantastic. Start living today, everybody.
Yes. Yay.
All right. Definitely head over to Camille's website. That's CAM as in Mary, ILLEMARTIN as in Nancy, RD.com. And I'll have that in the comments and the everything else. But what an honor to have you on with me today. Aww. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I loved it. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it and I loved it.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to see if you stay there. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
And I guess if I can still